Hello, explorers. I heard that you are having a very exciting week of science. And you're getting science experiments you can do with your moms. Very excited about that. And I saw that one of the experiments that Miss Nicole sent out to you guys was making a tinfoil boat. Now, boats float in liquids or fluids. Fluid is just a liquid. And there are a lot of things that go into making something float. There's density, displacement, and my favorite one to say, bouyancy. Do you say that? Bouyancy? That's a funny word. I just like the way it sounds, bouyancy. It's how well something floats. We are going to talk about some properties of fluids like volume, which is not, it is how loud something is, but in this context of fluids, it's the amount of space the fluids take up. We're going to talk about the difference between a mixture, which, you know what that is, you just mix some things together, right? And a solution. A solution is a special kind of mixture where you dissolve a solute in a solvent. The mixture that we are going to make is just sugar water. We're going to dissolve sugar as our solute into water as our solvent. And because they will mix so that you can't see the separate parts, it will make a solution. Now, since we are talking about fluids and the properties of fluids, I figured this week's animal should be a fish. And I chose the goby fish. That's the goby fish. And goby fish, this one in particular, lives in the Chesapeake Bay. The goby fish lives on the bottom, and he has a suction cup on his bottom that sticks him to the rocks so that he doesn't get washed away. Now, everything we eat or drink has to go through our digestive system. And the part of our digestive system I wanted to introduce you to today is your teeth. You've seen your teeth from the outside, but this is what your teeth would look like on the inside if you opened your mouth super duper wide. And this is what the inside of your teeth looks like. See, that's the top of your teeth right there, and these are called the roots. We talked about roots last week and how they anchor trees and plants in the soil. But the roots of your teeth anchor your teeth into your gums. All right, guys, are you excited? Let's do it. All right, guys, let's talk about some properties of fluids. Fluids are just liquids like water, milk, juice. Just liquids. Now, have you ever played sink or float? When you play sink or float, you drop things into water and see, do they sink or do they float? And there are a few things that factor into that. One of those things is the amount of displacement, which is the amount of water that has to move aside for your boat to float. Okay? That is a change in volume, and volume is just the amount of liquid that you have. The surface tension can also play a factor, and we will look a little more closely at surface tension in a bit when we do our project. And buoyancy. Buoyancy is just the ability of something to float. It's how much water gets displaced based on the amount of weight of the thing you're trying to float. And we are going to make a solution and an emulsion. We're going to do that by mixing liquids together or by mixing a solid like sugar into our water. Okay? A mixture is just when you mix two things together. But a solution is when something completely dissolves in another thing. Dissolve. Means you can't see the separate parts anymore. Okay? And things that go into making a solution are the solute, which is the thing that dissolves, and the solvent, which is the thing you're dissolving it into. Easy peasy, right? Now, when we do this at CCBC, we make a huge mess and we have these lovely liquid watercolors and we get them all over the place. But I'm trying to do this in a controlled way in my house. So, we're going to see if this works. I have here 3 containers. 1, 2, 3. This one's just in a dish in case it spills over. These two have very different volumes. So if I pour this one into this one, it doesn't fill it up. They have different volumes. Believe it or not, this one and this one, even though they're different shapes, have the same volume. Volume is just the amount of space that your liquid takes up. Now the first solution we are going to make is just mix up some watercolors. So I'm going to put a drop of red in here and a drop of blue in here. And I'm going to stir it up. Ready? Sing with me. Stir it up, little darling, stir it up. Little darling, stir it up. Little darling, stir it up. And look at that. Red and blue mixed into water made a purple solution. You guys know I love purple, right? Okay. So there's that. The next solution we are going to make is we are going to dissolve some sugar into some warm water. Ready? A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The medicine go down. Medicine go down. Just a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down in a most delightful way. And I don't even have to really stir it much. But let's sing it anyway. Stir it up, little darling, stir it up. And you can't see the sugar anymore. It made a solution. We know it's in there, but it just looks like water. We made a sugar water solution. That has more density than regular water. So if I pour this in here, it should sink. But you can't really see it. Anyway, no big deal. In this one, we are going to make an emulsion. An emulsion is when you mix things up, but they don't really mix. I can make an emulsion with oil and water. And no matter how much I stir it, it might mix in a little bit, but the molecules are still separate. See, it doesn't mix. The water goes to the bottom because it has more density, and the oil floats on the top because it has less density. Now, let's see if we can test displacement if I take 2 pieces of tin foil that are the same size, I crumple this one up really, really a lot so it's super dense. I'm going to drop it in the water. Oh, sugar water, I told you, has a greater density. Look at that. We're learning as we go. This is just plain water. Okay. If I drop it in this plain water, I don't know if you can see, but it is touching the bottom of the dish. It's sunk. Now, if I take my handy dandy piece of tin foil like this, and I make it into a boat with a wide bottom, because we know boats float, even though metal is super dense, right? And I set it carefully on the top, it will float on top of the water because the amount of water that is displaced by the wider bottom makes your boat float. Now, we are going to do a super fun project with displacement. You ready? Let's do it. Okay guys, now comes the fun part. Now we get to make a mess. Now, I'm hoping that I can demonstrate surface tension by putting drops. Oh, see, can you even see how that makes a drop and it stays together? In my classroom, this is a lot easier because kids can get down on all levels and see how the water doesn't spill over the side of the coin. It makes a dome on top. But I'm not sure that that is really doing a good job of showing it to you. Can you see how the water sits on top of the coin? You might want to retry that with your mom or your dad or a grown-up and see if you can make water sit on top of a coin. But we are going to make some messy art with displacement. You'll need some paints and some little lids. You're just going to put them on. I'm using watercolor paper. That's going to give me the best result because it's going to absorb the liquids, but if you don't have watercolor paper, you don't have to do it on watercolor paper. And then we're going to just try some different solutions and make them disperse on our paper. Use some different amounts of red. Maybe a bit of blue. Maybe another blue. If we had liquid watercolors, this would really be better. I borrowed one from school, but you really want to get a bunch of different colors just like dripping over the sides. I have this watercolor medium. It's kind of like liquid watercolors. You're going to fill your containers or your little lids until they're pretty much full. So, let's see, which ones need a little more liquid? That one, and if you make a mess, doesn't matter because it's all going into your art. Now, we are going to drop things in to our containers. And you see how when something sinks into your container, it displaces the liquid and it spills all over your paper. I'm doing this in a tray so I don't make a huge mess. you might want to do the same, because the whole point of this is that it's going to spill everywhere. There we go. I had to stir those solutions up, get them to mix up better. I think that container has a hole in it. That's not doing me any favors. That's okay. All right, let's try that again. See how that displaced just by putting my finger in it? I'm not even gonna mess with that one. I'm gonna add some more liquid till it's filled to the top. And drop in the balls to displace the liquid onto your paper. See, when you drop in the ball, how it makes the water spill all over the place? It displaces the liquid. When you put more liquid in, it pushes more liquid out. And then you just pick up your paper and you've got some fun, messy art. If I really wanted to, I could just pour this on here. That would really make some fun, messy art. And hey, if you're using marbles like I used, you can even roll them around on there and make some marble art. All right, guys, I hope that was fun for you and that gave you an idea of what displacement looks like. Okay, Explorer friends, we're going to take this to the next level. Remember we talked about how oil and water won't mix? I don't know if you can even really see that, but oil and water do not mix. We are going to use that property. They will not make a solution to make a secret message. We're going to use oil pastels and watercolors because oil and water won't mix. Now, I thought it would be really fun for us to make a secret message for Mom. So I want you to take a white oil pastel and write M-O-M. M-O-M for Mom. And then we are going to paint with watercolors right over that. I'm just using what's left over from our last messy project. Let that sit for a second. Maybe you can see how this M and the O are already starting to show. I want some of this to come off. Let me see. Maybe I'll just go over it with some clean water. Pour some of that water that's just sitting on top off. Well, can you see how my M-O-M Mom is showing up now? Let's try that one more time with a color. That'll show up better on the camera. You guys can use white, but my camera is not picking up that white very well. So I'm going to try using a color. I'm going to use silver. I'm going to write M, press it down so you get a good layer of oil pastel. M, O, M. M-O-M, Mom. Now you can see it. And if I turn it upside down, it's wow. Mom, wow. Pretty cool, right? Bet you didn't know you could do that. And now go over it with some watercolor. And now you can really see it. You can use that trick at home with a white watercolor, a white oil pastel, and you can write secret messages to your friends, to your brothers or sisters. You can use it to write secret messages. How fun is that? All right, let's do our recap. Okay, explorers, let's wrap this up. It's getting late in my house. We talked this week about fluids. A fluid is just a liquid. We talked about solids and liquids and gases. Liquids are fluids. Easy peasy. We talked about some properties of fluids, like volume, which is the amount of fluid that you have, and surface tension, which is the property that makes liquids try to stay together. We talked about displacement, which is the volume of water that moves out of the way when you drop something into it or on top of it. We talked about density, which is how thick or thin the molecules are in anything really, but today we talked about it in terms of fluids, right? And we talked about how sugar water solution had a different density than just plain water, and it had a different density than oil. So keep that in mind when we get into our solutions and emulsions. We talked about buoyancy, which is just something's ability to float. We talked about two different kinds of mixtures. A mixture is just mixing stuff together. But when we talk about it in terms of fluids, you can make two kinds of mixtures. One is an emulsion. That's where you can still see the things are separate. So oil molecules might be suspended in water, but it won't mix together. You will still see the difference between the oil and the water. And we talked about solutions, which, yes, does mean the solution to your problem, but it also means when you mix up a solvent and a solute. Remember, the sugar was our solute and the water was our solvent. And the solute dissolves in the solvent. And you get a solution where you can't see the difference between it. It's all perfectly mixed up. Now, our animal of the week is the goby fish. I had to pick a fish. We're talking about fluids, right? This particular goby fish lives in the Chesapeake Bay. Have you ever been to the Chesapeake Bay with your family? He lives on the bottom of the Chesapeake Bay, and he has a suction cup on his bottom that helps him stick to the stones on the bottom so he doesn't get washed away in the currents. When we introduced our digestive system, which is the system in your body that you use anytime you eat or drink anything. And an important part of your digestive system is your teeth. You need your teeth, so the first thing you do is chew something up, right? These are your teeth. If you opened really, really wide, that's what your teeth would look like. And if you were able to see inside your teeth, you would see that just like plants and trees, they have roots. Just like the roots of plants anchor them into the ground, the roots of your teeth anchor them into your gums. Now, I hope that you did the first project with me and examined surface tension. And I hope that you had fun dropping things in little paint cups to study displacement. And then I really hope that my explorer friends made some magic mom art with me using the properties that oil and water don't mix. Because we just had a very special holiday for mommies. So if you forgot to give mom a card, this is a great way you could make a secret message for her. And don't forget that M-O-M, mom, when we turn it upside down, what does it say? It says, wow! How cool is that? Ah! Mom, wow! And I hope that you had so much fun making a mess that you have artist hands. Let me see your artist hands. Hands up if you have artist hands. Hands up, baby, hands up. Give me your heart, give me your heart, give me hands up, baby, hands up. Give me your heart, give me all your love, all your love. I love you, explorers, and I will see you next week.